This video is of the Utica JCs of Utica, Ohio, putting on the Bicentennial celebration for a little town of 1900. I think we did a really nice job and created a lot of memories. One thing I guess I remember to start the celebration was how hot and humid it was. It had rained about a week beforehand. And here you see the day before, just taking a look at the park, and you'll be able to see right there some of the mud puddles that were still standing from all the rain we had. And in the background you can see the midway and the shelter house and the track over there. Now Jim Cavey built the announcer stand. It was welded up, and he did all the woodwork because he was the announcer for all the events. The National Guard hauled in 2,200 tons of clay for the track and also graded and rolled the track several times to make it the great track that it became. Phil Rhodes was the chairman of the other park improvements. As you can see, the list of those here. There's the announcer stand. And you can see preparations here. You see the track being graded again. Upcoming, you will see the shelter house that was built by the JCs from wood salvaged from the demolition of the birthplace of Virginia Woodhull of Homer, Ohio. You should look her up. She was quite a character, and she was the first woman to run for president of the United States of America. There's looks like a modified tractor. So we're getting ready for the kickoff, and I was at the main gate collecting money. So this was my view for the first night during the tractor pull. A lot of nice cars there that would be classics today, all being 50 years old. So the first night we had the OSTPA, or Ohio State Tractor Pullers Association, sanctioned tractor pull. As you can see, the total purse was $2,600, which would be roughly about $17,000 today, I believe. There's Russ and Neil getting ready to start the pool. And we have the stock class. I believe it's the 12,000 pound stock starting off, but there's a nice crowd. We are a rural community, so tractor pulling was a big thing for us, and we always had good crowds. Here you get a little sneak peek from the announcer stand of the midway that first night. Now, one of the things I didn't get to record, and this is done on Super 8, would be the modifieds, which really put on a show. Art Arfons, who at one point held the land speed record out at the Utah Salt Flats, was there with a tractor that had a helicopter turbine engine on it that sit in front of him. Another tractor had four 454 Chevy engines on it, and another tractor had a 12-cylinder tank engine. Now the 5,000 pound winner in the modified, Dave Rice, him and Jerry Hall run that tractor, I believe, named Black Lassie in the 5,000 and 7,000 pound classes, and they went all over the state of Ohio and I think into other states running their tractor. So for the parade, Flippo, King of the Clowns, was the Grand Marshal, and he ran into a problem because he was running a tad late, and as close as he could get coming down 62 was at Buckenberger's out on West 62, and he had to walk the rest of the way to the parade. And he wasn't a very happy camper. So he was also supposed to stick around pass out pictures and sign autographs for the kids down at the park. So he did come down to the park. He threw a bunch of his photographs on the one of the picnic tables, and so somebody else signed Flippo on them and passed them out. The kids were happy, so it all worked out, I guess. They had quite a few horse-drawn wagons in the parade. And this is the old lady that lived in the shoe. Start of the parade, I believe that's a Waterloo boy. Could be wrong. One of the early tractors ever built back in the 1910s or whatever. A lot of antique tractors. Had a lot of Model T, or Model A's, I'm sorry. There's the Utica Fire Department. And those Model A's would have been about 50 years old. Today they'd be about 100 years old. This is Gene Brandstool in the Jeep, who served as past president of the Utica JCs, as well as being our state representative. Had a run for lieutenant governor of Ohio and served in the Clinton administration in the agricultural department. Ellis Brothers Concrete painted their trucks up into Bicentennial colors that year. Now here comes the little old lady who lived in the shoe. We were told she was from Dover, Ohio, the float. But then somebody else said they didn't think so, so maybe somebody will be able to put that in comments so they know anything about it. Here comes the Ohio National Guard. And another horse-drawn wagon. There were several people dressed up in the 1776 costumes, I guess you would say. This is a group of horses that came through the parade. This might be one of the first zero-turn mowers. As you can see, Homer Overturf going backwards. And then I seen him flip it around. And you can see him going forwards there, but I couldn't catch it. I didn't realize what was happening. So the oil field float there. Oil fields were important to Utica and still is. Centennial Grange. They always had nice floats in our parades. Dwight Jewett, Jim Cree, and Harold Lufer, they all dressed up as the iconic drummer, fife player, and flag bearer in full patriotic dress. They were on the Fleming's Dairy float that you see here. And then Friday night tug-of-war preliminaries. This was another program that the JCs brought back, and I believe it was Gene Brandstool suggested it. It hadn't been run for a while, and I think about 1970, he said we should try to bring it back. They did. You see Ron Thompson there dressed up in the old-time garb. And it got so popular that other cities around and towns would also have the tug-of-war. So these teams started to travel. It got so popular that the state fair, I think in the late 70s, early 80s, they were having tug-of-wars at the state fair. So, and it was always a crowd pleaser. You can see again another big crowd. Rhythm. You see the rhythm. The captain would call out the rhythm, and the successful teams are the ones that had the best rhythm most times, pulling together. So Saturday, you'll see we had a wheelie contest, and Doug Swan was the one who won the wheelie contest and is now Pastor Doug Swan. Now you're going to see the horse show from the Ohio Western Horse Association. It was an approved horse show headed up by Marcy Williams. Now, I don't know the first thing about horse shows, but I can tell you they were over there several hours doing their thing and having their competition. There you see the guy, looks like the ringmaster or whatever he might be called. And over 100 entrants with 30 halter classes and performance classes participated. There's Larry Frizzell, past president of the Utica JCs and also former mayor. Taught shop class at the high school for several years. This is the Spirit of 76 cake. One of the neater things that happened. There'll be a lot more on this cake, but there you get a pretty good shot. It's sitting on a hay wagon. A lot of antique farm machinery displayed, but I didn't get very much of it. You can see a few tractors in the background there, antique tractors. Coming over to the Midway. Midway was provided by Kissel Brothers out of Florida, and Bob Shaw had set up an arrangement with Art Kissel, one of the owners, and we ended up with a full unit of rides and amusements. Now let me tell you how important that is. July 4th is the hardest time to get rides and amusements because every town has their celebration, or very many of them. And we ended up with a full unit. There were much bigger towns that had nothing. So Bob was very skillful at persuading Kissel Brothers to be at our event. Here's the controversial mouse game. We caught a lot of hell from the local people about mistreating this mouse. Of course, it wasn't us, it was the carnies. But the idea was that the mouse would find a hole, and each hole had a color. And you laid your money down on the color that you thought he was going into. And if you were right, you got the grand prize. As you can see, 3 colors in the foreground there. Sunday, we had the big tractor pull. This was Sunday morning. I think it started about 10 o'clock. Anyway, another great crowd, especially for that early. Kind of surprised me that there were that many people that early in the day. There's the track boss. That's the sled that would slow the tractors down and stop them. You'll be seeing Rod Booth there, who would grade between pulls. The tractor was supplied by Dave Thompson Farms, and Dave had a tractor called Little Alice that he would pull. So Sunday, you can see the events that we were going to have, culminating with the fireworks that evening. So we'll take a look at the 12,000-pound field stock class. It took about 8 people, I think, to run the pool. And then you had some other people helping with the scales and with checking the drawbar height. But Russ Sensabaugh and Neil Buxton built a sled called the Eliminator, which was one of the first sleds in the state, I believe. And the JCs used that quite often. Prior to the transfer, people would, there was a sled where people would walk onto like every 8 or 10 feet. That would add more weight, and that would stop the tractors. That was a little bit dangerous. But that's how it was done. There you see Rod again leveling the track. This is a staging area where you would check the weight of the tractor and the height of the drawbar, and then you would stage the tractors to get ready to pull. So it was pretty efficient. As you watch this pull, you start off with a pretty good wheelie, which wasn't uncommon. And certainly that was one of the things that the crowd enjoyed. It was also pretty dusty out there on the track. There's no doubt about that. So you can see the winners for Sunday morning, and they come from around the state. There's a view of the sky on the morning of the 4th from the announcer stand, I think, just showing the good weather that we had, except for it was muggy, very muggy. JC at Food Tent in the Shelter House. And we're getting back a little bit to the Spirit of 76 cake, sponsored by the American Legion. You'll see now you have candles added. The American Legion had their own program that they put on. And people were getting ready to line up to get some cake and ice cream. The mayor at the time was Al Shoemaker, who was also a JC. You can see the women in the Bicentennial garb. And here I am with my daughter Ginger. We're going to ride the merry-go-round. But at 1.5 years, she wasn't quite ready. So we ended up going back and sitting down in one of the seats, and that was much better for her. And here in a horse-drawn wagon she is. That one suited her a little bit better. A lot calmer ride. And then the boat ride, which I don't think she was real crazy about the ups and downs, but here's the Ricardo family. Betty Ricardo, Suzanne Ricardo, Ginger Ricardo, Dee Ricardo, and Tom Ricardo. Now back to the Spirit of 76 cake. 208 9x13 sheet cakes. And the people that baked it were the American Legion Auxiliary, the Utica JCS, and the Utica La Sertoma. And Velvet donated 21 gallons of ice cream to go with the cake. Here's the ingredients of the cake. I guess the thing that gets me most is 160 pounds of sugar. So it took them 4 hours to ice. 200 candles, one for each year of America's 200th birthday. Everybody that got in line got a piece of cake and ice cream. So you can see the crowd in the background there. They're getting ready to watch the finals of the tug of war. Now the heavyweight team from Locke, I think they may have been undefeated for several years. And the story is that they used to tie a rope to a flagpole there in Locke and practice their pulling, which gave them the strength and coordination and tenacity to pull against real people. But they just seem to have it down. Definitely a farm community. Kidwell Tire had a good team. And here's the ladies. I think Gretchen's was from Bladensburg, if I recall right. And then the Purity team. There was almost a fight there between a couple of ladies. Yeah, girls will be girls. Here we are at the food tent. The exposure is not the greatest at night. I tried to go through it and lighten it up and make it as good as I could, but it's just the film wasn't that good to work with. So here is the Midway on the night of July 4th, 1976. And the rides, and we'll be able to see the amusements. Hopefully there'll be some people watch this that will be able to pick themselves out. There, free prize every time at that amusement. This is J.C. Bill Belt there. The Midway was wall-to-wall people there for quite a long time. And here's the one where you throw the ping pong ball in the glass of water to win something or other. Now this shot is from up on the overpass on Route 62. So you can see the Midway there. And as we pan to the left, you'll be able to see the shelter house. There were cars all along Black Snake Road and Route 62 to wait for the fireworks. And I guess over on Route 13 as well. Now for the fireworks, when we bought them, there were two 18-inch balls. I think the biggest we bought was 12-inch, and we seen these two big 18-inch balls that we could shoot up, and we thought, boy, wouldn't it be neat to shoot that off at midnight and wake people up, maybe even break some windows. So we bought these two 18-inch balls, and we put them. We had to build a special thing to shoot them off with. So we did that. Midnight on the 3rd, we shot them babies up, and silence. There was nothing, but it was the most beautiful display of fireworks you ever saw. So for the 6 of us down there trying to pull this off, we saw a great fireworks show the night of the 3rd, and I don't think anybody else saw it. We spent $1,050 on fireworks with the help of donations from the local businesses. I think that's about $12,000 or $13,000 in today's money. But it was a good show, and the finale was quite memorable. A lot of that was on the ground. Here's the Utica JC officers back then, and I was fortunate enough to be president. So for a small town, I think we did a nice job, and I'm really proud of what we were able to pull off. Well, I hope you enjoyed our little video. And if you get a chance to identify somebody or leave your own memory or make a comment, it would be greatly appreciated so that other people can enjoy. Thanks again.